Investing in a brand new fitted kitchen and not considering the lighting is like buying a new Ferrari and putting it in the garage and keeping it there forever. I mean, basically I've been doing kitchens now, doing lighting designs for our kitchens for over 50 years, and I know just how important lighting is to the overall effect. When you're investing so much money, say in a fitted kitchen, you want it to achieve two things. It's got to work, it's got to fundamentally function as a kitchen, ergonomically sound, but come on, it's got to look stunning. And I genuinely believe that a major factor in elevating a kitchen from just being an ordinary kitchen to looking stunning is the lighting. Just have a look at this little clip here. It shows you a simple run of decorative open shelves, and I think it'll emphasise what I'm talking about. Here it is with the lights off, and here it is with the lights on. Now, I think you can see the difference yourselves there. There's absolutely no argument. Lighting is critical. Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Kitchen Design Experts. This is the channel that tells you all you need to know about kitchens, kitchen design and kitchen appliances. And today I'm going to show you exactly how to create a lighting design for your kitchen. If at the moment you're going through a kitchen design process with a kitchen designer, or you are thinking of just perhaps starting that process, here's a little bit of advice for you. If the people you're working with are not introducing lighting into the concept of their kitchen design, if they're not producing a lighting plan for you, I would reconsider who it is I'm using for my kitchen, and I would walk away and start again, because you need somebody who is interested not just in the kitchen cupboards but the end product and how it's going to look. I mentioned there a lighting plan. What do I mean by that? Here's an example of a kitchen we fit last year, and it's quite a simple lighting plan that went with that particular kitchen. Here it is. On this lighting plan here, you can see there's quite a bit of detail, but I'm going to come back to this lighting plan later and explain each individual bit. All I want you to look at the moment is the fact that it's colour coded. And those colour codes refer to three different aspects of typical lighting in a kitchen. Basically, we're looking at ambient lighting, we're looking at task lighting, and we're looking at accent lighting. And now I'm just going to go through what those three things are. What you do with these three forms of lighting is introduce layers into your kitchen of different levels of lighting. Ambient lighting, that's typically a light that lights the full room up. You'll normally use ceiling lights to achieve this. If your wall cupboards and tall housings don't go right up to the top of the ceiling, you can introduce an LED strip light on top of those, which will illuminate the ceiling, bounce back into the room, and is a great source of ambient lighting because you don't actually see where the light's coming from. Task lighting, that's everyday functional lighting. Typically in a kitchen, what we're talking about there is what illuminates your work surfaces. When you're working at your worktop, you don't want to be standing in your own shadow. You want a light that comes down and illuminates the worktop, irrespective of where you're stood. Again, typically wall cupboard lighting, under wall cupboard lighting is great for task lighting. If you haven't got any wall cupboards over a particular area of worktop, it might be an island or it might be a peninsula, or you just might not have any wall cupboards. The ceiling lights can then become task lighting. You position them over the top of the worktop rather than behind you. And then you come to accent lighting. This is where you add the drama into your kitchen. This is where you can mood the kitchen. I mean, typically these days, there's often kitchens are what we call living kitchens, where you've got the kitchen and you maybe have the table and chairs, and you might be having your friends round for a lasagna supper. What you don't want is all the bright kitchen lights on. You want to be able to change that energetic space into a relaxing sanctuary, and that's where accent lighting really comes into its own. So let's have a look at the different types of lights you can use to form these different layers of lighting in your kitchen. First of all, ambient lighting. We use recessed LED lights in the ceiling. The only choice you've got to make when it comes to choosing a recessed LED light is its colour temperature. We'll come on to those colour temperatures in a minute. You also have to choose the colour of the bezel, the little frame that goes around the light. Typically white, stainless steel or brass perhaps. We always like to choose white because most ceilings are white and we don't want to make a big impression with these lights. We want them to disappear. So we generally have white bezels on the lights. While we talk about the lights in the ceiling and not want to make a feature of them, you'll see a lot of people just put like a grid system of them in straight lines. It might look pretty in a ceiling, but it doesn't necessarily light the room you want to use it. So don't just necessarily stick to a grid system. When we get back to the lighting plan, I'll show you that we do move these ceiling lights around a little bit to suit the design, to light it properly. So these recessed lights in the ceiling can also be eyeballs. Eyeball lights, really though, the idea of those, they could tilt. And the purpose of those is perhaps to illuminate a work of art on the wall, or if you've got a feature wall that's brick or stone, you can illuminate that. But in that case, in those two cases, that's more of an accent light than an ambient light. I did mention for an ambient light you can use the LED strip that goes on top of wall cupboards, because that'll bounce back off the ceiling and illuminate the room. It's worth bringing into the conversation these LED strips now. Basically, it's a coil of LED diodes, and it's got a sticky back, and you just cut it to length and stick it down and wire it in. It's dead simple. But you've got to be a little bit careful, because there's something called a diode count per meter. And if it's got a low diode per meter count for the light, you'll see lots of little dots. You see each individual diode. And this can become a big problem if it's reflecting off a surface. So, for instance, if you put one of these strips under your plinth and it's lighting onto a reflective floor, you'll see lots of little dots. What you want is a dotless tape, ideally. A dotless tape has a high diode per meter count, and you don't see the individual dots. And if you want to give dotless tape an overall light, you put a diffuser on it. Better still, you can buy seamless LED strips. And basically with those you don't need a diffuser. I mean, here are two pictures of the two different types. Dotless on the left, seamless on the right. Also, certain sorts of wall lights, wall sconces, can be used as ambient lighting. It very much depends on the design of the light, because some of them will cast light into the room as ambient light, but many will just sort of illuminate up and down and illuminate the wall that they're on. And in essence, those are more of an accent light. Okay, those are the type of lights we use for ambient lighting. Let's look closely now at the type of lights we can use for task lighting, for illuminating your kitchen worktop. So, task lighting, this is the light that tends to come from the bottom of a wall cub typically. Here are a few clips showing you some of the different types of lights that we use under our wall cupboards to illuminate the work surface. Here we have a wall cupboard with task lighting underneath. The particular type of task lighting here is just a single light, and you can tell it's not an overall light because of the way it reflects off the quartz on the back panel there. The actual light itself, if you look underneath the wall cupboard here, what you get here, it's an actual metal, very thin metal frame to it that runs from the wall to the middle of the wall cupboard, and that essentially hides the wire, and you have a single light shining down onto the work surface. So as I say, you do not get an overall lighting, but it is quite effective to light certain areas. Now sometimes the wall cupboards that have lights in are set a little bit higher and you can actually see them. So the one that we showed you previously, it doesn't look the prettiest thing, so the best way of accommodating task lighting if it's at a higher level is to try and get the lights actually recessed into the bottom of the cupboard. The wire itself goes through the carcass of the cupboard. I'll just open the door. There are no wires in the top here at all. It's actually in the carcass of the cupboard, and the wire goes through there and gives an extremely neat finish. Once again, what you'll see here is, because they are individual lights, you see reflected on the back wall the actual area where the lights are covering, and they can be really good actually as accent lighting as well, because here you're obviously lighting the plant pots, the books, and whatever that is we've got over there. Underneath that shelf and the wall cupboard in the corner, you'll see a light that gives off a more overall lighting for the work surface. Now this particular light is an actual LED strip that's going underneath. It's in a diffuser, and obviously unlike the two previous types of lighting, this gives an overall light for the full length of the worktop. And to be quite honest, this is the one that we use the most. Now this is another way that you can actually use task lighting over your worktops that comes from the wall cupboard above. Here we have a handleless kitchen. Now when you actually open the door, your fingers go behind the door, and to achieve that there's actually a metal strip all the way along the bottom here. Now with the better kitchen companies, that metal strip, if you look underneath, hidden in it underneath there is a continuous LED light. Now what you can actually do with that is when you turn it on, you can see it makes quite a difference. It illuminates the worktop, and what you've actually got, that light is at the very front of the wall cupboard, so it covers right to the very front edge of the worktop. Again, a very neat way of using task lighting in your kitchen. Now we've already mentioned that you can have the recessed individual lights set into open shelves or into the bottom of wall cupboards, but they give a very specific direct light. We have mentioned the long run of LED lights, which we showed you with the diffuser on. Now you can in actual fact get your LED lights set in as well. If you look underneath here, that is actually recessed. It's a long LED light, but it's actually recessed into that shelf. If you look underneath, same thing, shining down onto the worktop is a recessed LED strip light with diffuser. And this gives a fantastic overall task light down onto your worktop. If you don't have any wall cupboards over your worktop, you then have to rely on your recessed LED ceiling lights. They work fine, they work great, just don't make sure you don't position them behind you. They've got to be over the worktop. They work tremendously well over islands and peninsulas, and we use them all the time when there's no wall cupboards to help with the task lighting. Also, certain pendant lights, dependent on the design of the light again and where you put them, can act as task lighting. And some people, when they've got an island, perhaps don't want to rely on the ceiling lights, and they'll bring some low pendant lights down to illuminate the worktop, and they can work quite well. So don't ignore pendant lights, they can be a good form of task lighting. Okay, let's now move on to the drama. Let's move on to the accent lighting. So where can we introduce accent lighting into a kitchen? Typically there are many areas that we can introduce accent lighting into a kitchen. If, for instance, you've got a handleless kitchen, you can introduce that previously mentioned seamless LED strip into the handleless profile. You can also introduce the same strip under the plinth at the bottom, and it gives you these two horizontal bands of light. And if you look at this video, it'll show you exactly what I mean. You can also introduce the same seamless LED lighting strip underneath any overhanging breakfast bar. Sometimes we clad the back of these bars in a different material. It could be a wood grain, or it could be a featured stone or quartz or whatever. And if you illuminate underneath the bar, it illuminates that back panel, and on its own can look absolutely tremendous in a kitchen. Also, you can illuminate the open shelving. If you recall that very first little video clip I showed you where we illuminated that full shelving unit, that can have a dramatic effect in a kitchen. And we like to actually put that lighting at the back of the shelf. If you look at this picture here, that'll explain what I mean. And what happens there is the light illuminates up and down, and it illuminates the back of the shelf unit, which you can do in a complementary colour or texture, and that itself looks marvellous as well. And obviously there's usually glass wall cupboards in a kitchen, and these glass wall cupboards will typically have glass shelves. So if you illuminate the interior of this, the light will shine right through it. And if you've got some glasses you want to show off, or some Victorian pottery, it's amazing if you illuminate these glass wall cupboards, the effect it will have on your fitted kitchen. And finally, let's not forget the ubiquitous pendant light. It too can be used as accent lighting, and over a dining table it can be a very subtle light coming down. But in addition to it lighting the kitchen, some of these pendant lights are absolutely gorgeous, and they themselves can be a major visual feature in your kitchen. Do not forget pendant lights. Now moving on, I'm going to start to talk about the temperature, the colour, the warmth of the different types of LED lights. But before I do that, I just want to mention dimmable lights. We actually use dimmable lights all over our kitchens. It can be really useful to mood the entire room by just turning those ambient lights down a little bit, increasing the accent lights. Really, I believe that every single light should now be dimmable. Again, small word of warning, you have to buy dimmable bulbs. It's no good having a dimmer switch with a bulb that you can't dim. So always look at the package when you're buying your bulbs. Okay, let's move on to this thing about temperature and colour of LED lights. So what do I mean by temperature? Typically, the terms that we use are cool, neutral, warm and extra warm. And these are measured in Kelvin. The higher the Kelvin rating, the cooler the light that comes out of it. Have a look at this little picture here, that will explain it better. On this picture you can see the 4 different types of light I just mentioned, and you can also see the effect they have on, say, the wood grain underneath, and how that wood grain actually looks under the different types of lighting. So what colour should you choose? There's a few factors that affect this. I mean, the ambient light in your kitchen wants to reflect the type of kitchen you've got. If you've chosen a contemporary kitchen with lots of flat surfaces, maybe even shiny surfaces, then the cooler lights work better with this. If, however, you've gone for a woody timber shaker style kitchen, the traditional looking kitchen, then you want to make your ambient lights that little bit warmer. As far as your task lighting is concerned, you really want the truest light here, because you're preparing foods, aren't you? You're chopping your carrots, you're peeling your potatoes, you want to look at the food, the meat in particular, and make sure it's the right colour, you're looking at it in its truest form, and that means that you want to use a neutral coloured light under your wall cupboards, if possible. And when it comes to accent lighting, it very much depends what it is you're accentuating. If you're shining your accent lights onto a colder colour, such as a brushed steel or a metal of some sort, then you want the light to be fairly cold. But if you're illuminating, say, a wood grain back panel, you want the light to be warmer. And these days, dark woods are becoming very popular, and the extra warm lights look really good against a dark wood. If you don't want to be stuck to a certain colour temperature for your lights in your kitchen, the best thing you can do is choose smart lighting. Because with smart lighting, you can actually not only dim all your lights to where you want them to be, but you can change the colour temperature as well and get it just exactly where you want it, the way you want it. So now that you've got a decent understanding of what lighting is all about, let's reintroduce that plan that I showed you at the beginning, and I'll talk through quite simply how we put all the elements that we've just talked about into practice on a lighting plan, and what you should be looking for from lighting plans that your kitchen designer should be doing for you. Before I bring that plan back though, let me just answer the questions we're always being asked. Where do we work? We do our kitchens on a supply and install basis throughout the counties of Lancashire, Cheshire and Shropshire, and we do the rest of the country on a supply only basis. So if you are interested in using us for your kitchen project, you want any help, you'll find all our contact details in the description box below. Okay, let's bring that plan back and let's chat it through. Now, first of all, as I say, you can see it's all colour coded. The yellow is the accent lighting, the blue is the ambient lighting, and the green is the task lighting. And I'd like to bring into the conversation the different circuits that we put our lighting on. You don't want all the lights on all the time. You might just want the ambient lights on, or you might just want the task lighting on. So you want to introduce your lighting onto different circuits. And to begin with, what you generally do is put all the ambient lights on one, the task lighting on one, and the accent lighting on one. Sometimes you might want them to fine-tune it a little bit, and we have done on this plan, which I'll come to in a minute. But if you look over here on the left, you'll see that we've got 4 lighting circuits, all on dimmers, and one light is on a two-way switch. Now, the reason for the two-way switch, if you look over to the right, is you've got to imagine that's a set of bifold doors, by the way, there on the right-hand side. If you're walking into a room at night when it's dark and that room isn't lit, you also want the opportunity to be able to turn at least one of those circuits on at the door as you walk in, so you're not falling over the table as you try to get to the other light switch. So hence, it's always worth considering having at least one of your circuits on a two-way system. Now let's start initially with the ambient lighting, which are the blue lights. You can see along the bottom wall there, we've positioned all these ceiling lights. Those little blue squares represent recessed low voltage ceiling lights. We've then put them again on the top wall in front of the cupboards. You'll notice they're set back away from the tall housings on the left and a little bit closer over the worktop where the sink is. Above the actual wall cupboards and housings, you'll see the comment on it at the top there. We've done the LED strip above them that runs the entire length of that top wall, and it illuminates the ceiling and bounces back into the room, as I say, giving off great ambient light. And so those are the ambient lights we put into this kitchen. The task lighting, which always goes over the worktop, we've positioned in green, as you see the little squares in green, over the sink run, which is under the wall cupboards there. We've also positioned them over the island on the hob side of the island. The hob itself is a self-venting hob, so there's no cooker hood coming down from the ceiling over the top. If there was a cooker hood, the hood itself would have its own lighting in there, so it illuminates the hob area for you. You don't have to worry then about putting the lights in the ceiling. Then you come to the accent lighting, which is in yellow. You can see near the hob there, we've said that we want the LED strip. It's a handleless kitchen, so we're running the LED strip in all the handleless profiles. We're also running the LED strip under the kickboards, the plinths at the bottom, so you've got that fabulous horizontal effect. There is a breakfast bar at the back of the island, and yes, we've put an LED strip underneath that breakfast bar, illuminating the back panel. Over to the table, you've got the pendant light coming down over the table, and above that, as the kitchen comes down to the dining end of the room, we've got a lot of open shelving here. If you look at this CAD visual, it gives you a better impression as to what we've done there. And we've built lights into the actual shelves themselves, above and below. And there's a TV there. You've just got to be a bit careful when there's a TV. You don't want to put a light straight over the top of a television because it's going to reflect quite badly off the screen. So you can see from those accent lights there that if you're having an evening meal, you turn the accent lights on, so your pendant's on over the table, the subtle handleless lights, the plinth lights and behind the bar, and then the beautiful open shelf unit lights come on as well, and you get a really, really lovely atmosphere for your kitchen when you're having your meal at night. You'll notice in red that we've done a fourth circuit. Basically, that's the pendant lights over the breakfast bar. They could have gone on the same circuit as the accent lights, but really, do you really want both sets of pendant lights on at the same time? They perform two different functions, so we have put the pendants over the bar on a separate circuit. So that's a lighting plan that suits what we call a living kitchen. It's a kitchen where you've got to prepare foodstuffs. You've got to work in day to day. The kids have got to sit at the breakfast bar and maybe do the homework. And then you've got to mood it down because you want to sit at the table and have your evening meal. Lighting has to be flexible. It has to reflect what you're doing in the kitchen. And this type of design here works superbly well when we introduce it to our clients. And the nice thing is, when the job is finished, we have the opportunity to go around and see the finished result for ourselves. Okay, so that's a typical lighting plan that we do for our clients. You really must make sure that whoever you're working with for your kitchen project will produce a lighting plan for you. It's absolutely crucial to your kitchen design to get the lighting right. That's it really. I've said all I need to say about lighting at this stage. I hope you're more illuminated than you were before. Sorry about that. Obviously, if you've got any questions at all, we'd be delighted to answer them for you. Please bob your questions in the comments box below. Subscribe by all means, it always helps, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.